Hey everybody, it's me, Undead Viking. I'm here with well, this is kind of a first for the old Undead Viking. I am going to be reviewing today a game called Gothic Invasion. Now, you may judge from the cover and the name, obviously this is a game that has some historical basis and what have you along with it. But what makes this kind of unique is that this is, in fact, a war game. A war game that was sent to me, and I was asked to review it. This is a historical representation of the Gothic War that the Goths and the Romans had. Many. Well, back in I think I read it was like 378 A.D. And so it is. Like I said, it's a war game. Now, I play war games on occasion, and I'm not talking about playing Tide of Iron or something like that, or Memoir 44. I mean, I've played a few war games, like those big giant boxes with the hundreds of little counters or whatever, and it's not my favorite thing in the world, but I do enjoy it from time to time. I really like the block games, actually. I enjoy those a great deal. But regardless, I'm thinking back, I mean, I've never done a review of a war game. I never have. And I mean, truth be told, as far as war games go, this is not the most in-depth one that you're ever going to see. I mean, it doesn't have, like I said, the hundreds of little counters and the giant bindered rule book with rule 14.3.2 or anything like that. It is a card-driven game, a card-driven war game where each side, both the Goths and the Romans will have a deck of cards that they will draw a certain number of cards depending on the season and depending on which side you're on, and then you'll have those as your hand. And then depending on whose turn it is, they then get to take a card out of that deck or that hand that they have, play it, and take the action that is on there. And then the other person goes and does the same thing, and the other person goes and does the same thing, until you eventually use up all the cards that you got during that turn. And along the way, you hopefully are achieving objectives. Now, to win the game as the Gothic player, you have to you'll draw a card that will have your objectives on it, and there are several of them. And on the front of this card, there'll be a list of the cities that you have to plunder. You have to ransack those cities, and as soon as you accomplish that, at that point, you've won the game. Historically speaking, what happened, and you can read up on this, and I actually did because it was kind of neat. But historically, the Goths were trying to escape the Huns, and they came to the Romans, and they asked them if they could settle in the Roman lands, and then the Roman army would protect them from the Huns. And they said, okay, fine, you can do that, because the Roman leader at the time saw them as an ability to increase the size of his armies, and also the more taxes. He had more people to tax, he could become more wealthy. And so what they didn't realize is that they didn't have enough food to actually feed these thousands of people that they were admitting into their lands. And so they came, and then they gave him kind of, in the parlance of our times, they gave him a bit of the runaround, and they kind of kept him barricaded in an area, and then they told him to head to this city. And so they kind of force marched him to the city where they thought there would be food, and when they got there, they basically returned away again. And there was an attempt on the Gothic leaders' lives at a banquet that they were held, and so at that point there was open revolt, and that's when the Goths took up their weapons. And what's significant about the Gothic War is that over the course of 3-4 years, the Goths actually did pretty well for themselves, and they were able to beat the Romans enough and become enough of a thorn on their sides by plundering cities and what have you, that eventually peace was sought between the two sides, and the Goths were able to broker a treaty and do something that was very favorable for them. And that was like the first thing that, the Romans were like, whatever, 1,000-0 going up to that point. And when they got to there, that was like their first really big defeat. And a lot of people point to the Gothic War as the beginning and the end of the Roman Empire. So there you go, little brief history lesson, and that's what this game is based upon. And like I said, I would even have read about that if it wasn't before this game. So that's pretty cool. But I will get back to that and the rest of the game in just a bit. I'm going to show you how to play. The game is pretty simple. I'm not going to go really in depth. I mean, the game is like I said, it's got a small little map, and a lot of it is the Romans just trying to hold out. I mean, because if the game reaches the end without the Goth player being able to destroy all those cities, then they win. Or theoretically, you could destroy their armies too, and you can win that way. But that's kind of tough to do. So your whole point is you just got to keep them kind of penned up and keep them on their toes the entire time until like enough time goes by and they actually then will lose the game. So, all right, how to play Gothic Invasion. And then when we come back here, I'll tell you what I think of this war game that I've been playing. All right. Okay, this is the board for Gothic Invasion, and before I get too far into showing you how the game is played, I should mention this is a prototype that was sent to me for the game that they are publishing very soon. So I wanted to make sure that what you see here isn't necessarily what the game is going to look like, but it will look quite a lot like this. So, you have up here the 3 Gothic armies represented by these 3 leaders over here, and these 2 Roman armies that the game starts off with. The goal of the Gothic armies, as I said, is to plunder certain cities on the board, and those are notified by the names. Major cities have a little city icon by them. The ones that don't are minor cities. It's easier to plunder a minor city than it is a major city, but I'm getting ahead of myself there a little bit. But we'll come back to that. Before the game starts, and after you set up, and this is the way the game will always be set up, the Goth player will draw one of these cards at random, and doesn't show it to anybody, and then those would be like the 9 cities that they have to plunder. And so you need to look on the board, and as you plunder them one by one, if you can get all 9, then you win the game. The game ends in your favor. And so you take that card and you put it aside. It's face up over here, but we'll just kind of leave it there. But normally that'd be face down. They wouldn't have any idea what the goal is. And to begin the game, each person will draw up to the maximum number of cards for your particular leader during the summer of the first turn of the game, which is 377 AD. And so you draw these cards. Now the cards drive the action, and the cards will have up to 3 different things on them. So like this one has recruitment, and you add 1,000 to your army. Reinforcements during battle, you can play this and you can add 2 to your power, or you can play it, dysentery, a Roman leader will lose 1,000 of their army. And so you have these cards in your hand. Some cards will just say like battle on the bottom. That means you can use it to start a battle. Desertion is another battle card you can say because it has the opponent leader loses a reinforcement card. So like if you were playing somebody in a battle that played a reinforcement card like this, you could then play desertion card. Now, plunder obviously is a card that you'd use if you're going to be plundering a city. If you're trying to get that goal or trying to achieve that. And so each leader will have its own card. So you can see like Saphrax has 3, so you give him 3. Aletheus gets 3 in spring, so instead of 4, so we give that. And Fritigern only gets I apologize, it's summer, so I should actually give 4, and Fritigern will get 5, like so. And then the other player then gets 5 cards for Valens and 4 cards for, Ricomeris. That sounds like a awesome name. So like so, and like so. Now, you don't get to combine those cards. Like if you're like the Roman player, you don't put them all together and play them. You have to actually use the cards, and then, you know, for like, because a lot of times the location matters as far as where you are. Like, you can't use a battle card, you know, for Fritigern, for, you know, who is represented by this icon there. You can't use him, you know, to have this one do a battle. So you have to keep them separate. And so a lot of things are just moving. Like, you just, you know, move. You know, like you'll get I'll find a card that just says that, that allows you just, like, you know, army movement right there. You play that card, army movement. You take one of your units and you move them along. Just because you enter into a spot that has a city, it doesn't mean you've plundered it. You're just, you know, and it doesn't mean you're attacking it either. You might notice that there's these 3 little icons over here. Those are Roman garrisons, and those are, like, on the board until they're basically destroyed. Gothic players can attack them, and the Roman players can use their cards to have them attack and also do things. But once they're destroyed, they're gone. And so the interesting thing about them is that when they attack, so, like, let's say you had an army there, and, like, the Roman player played an army, like a battle card. You don't actually do a battle in this case. This person attacks, and you roll for how many, like, that army would lose 1, 2, or 3,000 armies. So you'd roll like this, and you'd get a 1, and so you lose 1,000 armies, and then the garrison would be destroyed, and it'd be gone. It'd be gone for the rest of the game. If a Goth army attacks a garrison, however, by using a battle card, it's just destroyed. It doesn't do any damage to you at all, and then it's gone. It's off the game as well. The garrisons are kind of there just kind of to slow the Goths down just a little bit right at the beginning, and they're basically cannon fodder right away. So the crux of the game is using your cards, like, so depending on the symbol up here, and you can see during the summer, Goths go first. During the autumn season, the Romans will go first, and during the winter, nobody gets any cards, so nobody does anything. And in fact, every army loses 1,000 troops because it's winter and there's no food, and, you know, what have you, disease, and people desert, and you know, so it's just because it's winter. It's not exactly a fun time to be the part of an army. And then you do that, and then you go to spring. And then, once again, spring, the Goths go first, summer, the Goths go first, and so on. And then autumn, Rome. And you do that over and over again until you theoretically reach the end of the game, or the Goths have destroyed all 9 cities they have to destroy to win the game. But the turn lasts until every single card has been used that are in people's hands. And so, obviously, in some situations, there's a disparity that you're not going to have the same number of cards. So you can just go Goths, Romans, Goths, Romans, Goths, Romans, because in this case, to start, you're going to have 12 cards as the Goth, and you're going to have 9 cards as the Romans. And so, but the Romans can skip a turn at any time, or whoever's lower in cards can skip a turn at any time, and they don't have to wait till the end of the round. They can say, "Go ahead, you can do another turn." But as soon as the cards are equal, and there's definitely going to be times when the Goths are going to have less cards than the Romans, you have to play a card. Even if you don't do anything that's on the card as far as an action, you can you have to discard it and just say, "Well, I'm not doing anything," because for whatever, that rarely happens. Usually, there's something you can do with that card, but you know, that you have to actually use one. You can't just sit on your hands and let the other person go, and then, you know, play a bunch of turns right in a row because you've waited with your cards in your hand. So the game is all about the Goths moving about the board. You know, theoretically, these garrisons have been destroyed. Moving about the board and trying to get into, like, the positions of being able to either, you know, possibly doing battle, or being in a spot where they're able to, like, say here in Serdica, maybe, let's see, was Serdica on here? No, but Philippopolis is, and so, like, if they were right over here, they want to be able to plunder that spot. And so, and to plunder, you have to have a card that actually has plunder on it. Here, let me see if I drew one really quick here. So, yeah, so like here. So if you're in the spot, you in that army, and you have that army's cards, you play a plunder card, and you roll this die. And because Philippopolis is a minor city, on a 3, 4, 5, or 6 on this die, you'll successfully plunder it. And then you can go ahead and put this plunder token on it. And if like some things like Fritigern, he gets a +1 to plunder because, I don't know, he really liked tearing up. So let's say it's Fritigern's army and he's attacking it. And so we'll go ahead and roll. So we just basically don't need to roll. Can't roll a 1. And I rolled a 1. Well, that's just cheat here. Okay, we rolled a 3. And so you would take one of these tokens and you'd put it on Philippopolis. Now, that doesn't mean the spot is gone. I mean, the city technically is still there. They've plundered it, they've taken the food, they've done whatever. If I'm the player that has this, if I'm the Goths, I know that I've taken care of one of the 9 cities that I need. Romans don't know that, obviously. But you can still move through the spot. You can still have a battle there. You can still do whatever you want at that spot. So just because you have that doesn't necessarily mean that it's gone. Like it's a space that you have to move around it. It's fully passable. Like some cards, like something just effectively like diplomacy. A Roman leader must discard all his army movement cards. So the Roman leader will show, okay, I got these 2 cards that have army movement on them, so I have to get rid of them. Like things like dense fog, you can play that during a battle. Battle resolution only with dice rolls. So it comes down to sheer luck in that situation. So obviously it's a war game, so battles are a huge, battles are going to be a part of the game because you're fighting. I mean, there's other things you can do to mess with other people, but you're going to fight. So if 2 armies end up close to each other, and one of them says, I am going to, play a battle, then you declare the attack by playing the card, and then at that point you go through a process to make sure that the battle is actually going to occur. So let's say the Roman army here, which is Ricomeris here, has attacked Fritigern in Thracia. I should say has attacked Fritigern at this location. That's actually Thracia, is not the actual spot. That's just the area they're in. So this actually isn't happening in city. These are just 2 waypoints on the map where you're walking. And so that battle is coming. So the first thing you check is whether or not a player actually has what's called either a misleading, which allows you to avoid the battle, or like a withdraw. And withdraw, it says lose 1,000 army and retreat 1 space wherever you want. So let's say Fritigern just doesn't want to fight. Hey, I'm going to get my butt kicked. He'd play that card, and he'd just say, bam, see you later. I'm going to move. I lose 1,000 men, but I'll live to fight another day. Now, if the defender doesn't play either one of those, the smaller army size gets to choose where the battle is going to take place. Now, you might be saying, what does that mean? So, like, Fritigern has 12,000, and Ricomeris has an army of 8,000. So they're the smaller battle. They're the smaller army. So, I'm going to hope you can see this. You can see on the bottom, you can't, that it's considered plains, hills, and forest is what these 3 numbers are. So 0, 1, and 2. So for an army of 8,000, you can see here, plains, hills, and forest, he's going to get a +2 to his combat if he fights there. So Ricomeris is going to say, well, let's fight in the hills. So okay, now we know that this battle is happening in the hills, and we're going to look at Fritigern's card here, and he's got an army of 12,000. His army is huge. And you can see his hills is 1. So he's, so right now, he's got a +2 to his combat right now, and Fritigern has only a +1 due to the fact that that's the choice where the battle is going to happen. So the attacking player then can play any cards they have that might have reinforcements on them. So you go through it, and you can play. You're not limited to just 1 card. You can play a lot of them if you want. But you could say, okay, well, I'm going to play these 2. I'm reinforcing two reinforcements of 2 infantry. And so they play those 2. So Ricomeris has added those to his army. And then the defending player can then also, if they have any reinforcements, they can play them as well. And he has 1, so he's going to play that. So he's got +1. But now the attacking player can play an ambush or desertion card, and that actually causes, you can go like this, see? So, desertion. An opponent Goth leader loses a reinforcement card. So you just play that right on there. Sorry, you don't actually have that particular reinforcement. It ran away, if you will, when they saw the might of the Roman army. And so the defending player now has options available to him. He can do the same thing. If he has one, he could play one, but unfortunately, he does not. He can't. You can't use either an ambush or a desertion card. I'm going to show you a desertion card, an ambush card. I apologize, really quick, just so you can see what that does. An ambush. If I can find one here, maybe one of these guys already has it. So, an ambush. There we go. An ambush, the opponent's played reinforcement cards are canceled. So instead of just one, it would be all of them. However, if, and I'll just show you the one that I have over here, if you have a scouts card, you can play that then, and that cancels the ambush. So it didn't work in the first place. So then you can, you also, if like he had an ambush card, you could play a scouts card as well. The defender could as well. And then the attacking player can play like a dense fog, like I showed that to you. A spear tactics card, which actually removes the die roll, and then battle is done completely without dice rolls. Or a maneuver card, which then can allow you to change the battlefield as well. And then the defending player could respond by playing a superior tactics, once again, same thing, dense fog maneuver, and do that. So then after all is said and done, after all that is determined, now you will actually then roll the dice to determine who wins or loses. So to determine who wins or loses, you have to factor in everything that's in that matters. So, and the cards here will actually show it, and I'm not going to pick it up again, but Army of 8,000 gives you a power of 2. The training and morale of training, he has a training 1, so that adds another 1, so that's a 3. And then he's fighting in the hills, so that's a 5. And then he has his 2 reinforcements, so 6 and 7. Now, on the other side, we have Fritigern, who has a army of 12,000, which gives him a 4. He has no reinforcements, so that doesn't do anything. Hills gives him 1, so that's a 5. And so now you have a situation where it is going to end up, it is 5 to 7. And both of them will then roll their dice. The red being Romans, obviously, and the green being the Goths. Now, obviously, the only thing that the Goths have to hope for is that they roll a 3, because these dice only have 1s, 2s, and 3s on them, and that the Romans roll a 1, so they can tie. If you tie, both sides lose 1,000 men, and nobody has to move, nobody does anything. So let's just see what happens here. So, it kind of happened the way we wanted to, but we need those numbers to be flipped. So actually, the worst possible thing that could have happened happened. So Fritigern is going to have a total of 6, 5 plus 1, and Rigomaris is going to have a total of 10. So you figure that 10, 6, the difference is 4. And this might be tough to see, but the battle losses per army is determined here. So if after all is said and done, it's a 4-0 win. On a 4-0, the losing army is going to lose 4,000 men. The winning army actually loses 1,000 men. And then Fritigern is going to have to move his army twice away from the situation. Plus, the winning army actually gets a bonus to their morale, because obviously they won. So we lose 1 over here. Unfortunately, Fritigern is going to lose a lot of men. 1, 2, 3, 4. He's down to 8,000, and he's got to move. And when you move away, you can't move closer. You have to be at least 2 spaces away, or you can't be right next to another army. So but he's going to kind of lick his wounds, and he's going to head over that way. And so he can, hopefully next turn we can play some reinforcement cards to increase his army level, and then he can live to fight another day and perhaps plunder some more areas, if you will, and possibly win. See, a lot of the times it doesn't really. When I play the Goths, it feels like battles are kind of like the worst thing that can happen to you, unless you have a decided advantage over the Romans. You want to keep healthy, you want to keep everything running really, and your army's big, and your morale high, and your training high, but you don't win by really. You can theoretically win by like destroying the Romans, but you win. It's much easier to just plunder the cities and grab and get rid of those because without having to fight. And obviously, the Romans' whole goal is to just harry the Goths constantly, and try to keep them on their heels, the entire time, and put them in a situation where they become desperate, and where they have to be like they don't have a lot of mobility because of the fact that you've got them kind of penned in. But there you go. I mean, that's how a battle works. And the game will continue, as I said. Like then you go to autumn, winter, and so forth. And if the Romans can hold out until the spring of 382 AD, they will win. If the Goths manage to destroy all these, they win. And that's pretty much how you play the game of Gothic Invasion. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of different cards, a lot of different card abilities that are just, it's a lot of, there's a little bit of bluffing going on, obviously because of the fact that the Romans don't know which of the cities you're trying to plunder. So, I mean, you kind of have that going for you as a Goth, but both sides have a little bit of bluff going on as far as the different cards that you have and the things that you have. I should mention that you can do like a sea landing. You can travel by sea. There's these little anchors over here. So Goths that make it over to these spots over here can play a sea landing. And so, like, say there was a Roman general down there, a Roman leader, I should say. They can play a sea landing, and then they could actually go to battle down here, and land in that spot. So I mean, those are kind of nice for like little surprise attacks. The Goths cannot use the red anchors, however. Those are like considered to be Roman ports, and they never would be open for the Goths to use. So, but that's, I mean, I invite you to go out and check out the game page and read the rules yourself, so you can kind of explore the game to greater detail. But I really like the game. I've had a lot of fun playing it just for the historical basis, and also just the very, very tight rule set that's here. But let me tell you more about all that stuff in my conclusion right now. Alright, so there you go. That's how to play Gothic Invasion. I already told you the history or whatever, and I alluded in the beginning of my introduction there, or towards the end of my introduction, I should say. I explained how, like I said, this is a time in history that I didn't even know existed. I'm sure there's scholars and historians out there that did, or at least read about it in passing. But I went out and I actually searched for information about the Gothic War, because it was very interesting to me. And it was very interesting to read about the different leaders that you are portraying. These are actual people, and what they did, and what they accomplished. And obviously, the time period, being 380 AD, it's quite a long time ago, and so to actually know exactly what they did and who they were and what they looked like, whatever, that's kind of tough. But it is really interesting. And, I always have found history to be exciting in a way, just because of the fact that here you have these people that lived, hundreds upon hundreds of years ago. And the way I always look at it is like, they probably never thought in their wildest dreams at that point. There's no way that there'd be some bearded guy in the basement talking to some magic box, that making a moving picture that they would then upload into some weird worldwide network, so I could talk about them, and so like and show people the battles that they were involved in and what have you, and so for that part I really find fascinating, and in a way. And my apologies to my former podcast mate Marco when I used to make fun of him for his war game leanings. He used to say it was like something when he played games like that he actually could feel the rumble of the tanks or hear the gunfire, and I was a bit incredulous for that, but I've gotten inklings. I've gotten kind of. An idea, I guess, of that. I'm not super into this type of game, but I mean I do enjoy it. So, what do I like about the game? I like the fact that like as I said, it isn't a super like rules involved game. One of the things about war games that kind of turns me away is the minutia of the rules for some of them, and this one maybe theoretically entry level or medium weight, if you will. I don't know. This is my expertise, but I do know that after reading the rules, I was ready to go and I was ready to play, and I didn't have to reference and go back to them ever really. I mean, except for to like look up a specific action that's on one of my cards, so I can remember exactly what happens when I used it. I like the tenseness of it, and I like the kind of hidden goal that the Goth warrior has. There's a lot of wonderment upon like the Roman side is that as a Goth player, I mean, you really should just be trying to plunder a city whenever you got a chance. Just to keep the Roman player on their toes and like say, well, was that one of the 9 cities he needed? Is he just doing that for the fun of it? And then because the fact that like the Romans, like time is on technically their side, they just need to hold out, and if they can just kind of keep you from ever destroying one of those plundering those cities, then that's their goal. I mean, they have the reinforcements coming if things bad happen. I mean, they have the 2 other leaders that they can get on the board if something, if they should happen to, be misfortunate enough to like lose an army or what have you. And so I like the fact that there's the 2 different goals, or the 2 different like styles of play. The Goths need to be constantly moving. They need to be moving on to the next target, destroying that one, moving on to the next target, destroying that one. And they can't play their hand. They can't, make it obvious which direction they're going, because then the Roman player will just hunker down in that spot and say, well, I know this is one of the cities you need, so come get me, and they will just do that. So I like that. I like that. There's a little bit of bluff there. There's a little bit of secrecy there, and I like that. It isn't just a straight up fight. The game technically can be played with several people, but as with many war games and like games in general that kind of are one side against the other, it is my opinion this game is much better as a 2-player game. I've played it with 4 and I've played it with 3, but the 2-player game is where it's shined, and luckily, like I said, I have my good buddy Derek, who I can turn to whenever I have a 2-person game that I want to play. Time-wise, also, as far as war game, it's very forgiving. The first time you play the game, especially with 2 people, it's going to take you a couple hours. But after that, after you kind of like got the flow of the game and you've whittled everything down, you can get it down to like just a little bit over an hour. And we've definitely played games out that quickly. The game is tight. It is decisive. It is challenging. It is a game of both tactics and strategy, if you know what I mean. I mean, it isn't just the players on the board. It's the cards in your hand and waiting for the opportune times to use them. And I think, and I know, I shouldn't say I think, I know one of the charms of war games is the ability to rewrite history and to see what if we went this route, or what if like, you know, what if they never did that ill-timed attack on Philiopolis or whatever, you know, and you have that ability to kind of just, you know, see, interesting, what could have possibly happened. I know some people will say that maybe the idea of using dice, because of the randomness of them, maybe that shouldn't be used. I know that you probably could just play the battles out deterministic if you wanted to. You know, whoever's got, you know, the most armies and everything else, you know, that you just win. You know, so, and there's that card, you know, in the deck that allows that to happen. So I suppose you can play it like that if you want, but I like dice, and I like the idea that even if it's a 1 in 6 shot for me to win, give me that 1 in 6 shot. I don't want to just go into something knowing I'm going to lose. So, you know what? I like it. If you like war games and you're looking for something that maybe it's a little lighter than your standard big heavy affair, then I think this is something that you want to pick up. If you like card-driven war games, I think this is also a game that you're going to enjoy. If you're looking to just kind of get into the whole war game hobby, I think it's a game that you want to try out as well. So, there you go. This was Gothic Invasion. And as always, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. And until next time, you have yourself one heck of an awesome day. Alright, bye-bye.